Yo, what's up, everybody? It's Rick. Kyle and I are bringing you another episode of Only Football. This episode, we are breaking down that Super Bowl 57 game between the Chiefs and the Eagles. What a game it was. We're also going to talk a little bit about some NFL news that has gone around over the last couple of days, and we're going to talk about our new schedule in the offseason. So let's get it.
Yes.
Yo.
Welcome to Only Football. I'm Kyle, and that's Rick.
I'm Rick. That's Kyle.
We're gonna be talking about. I've learned to ignore it. We're gonna be talking about the NFL and a historical Super Bowl, one of the best of our lifetime. A Super Bowl that by no means, when we woke up this morning, did it slip our mind. But we will talk about the slippery field, and we will talk about some of the things that the NFL can do better moving forward. I want to say congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs, especially Matt Nagy, for getting a Super Bowl. You were clapping. For getting a Super Bowl ring. Patrick Mahomes is a two-time Super Bowl champion. He has won two of his three Super Bowls. You got to give credit where credit's due. I did put up a short a little bit after the game, and you could tell that there were some people saying, "No, well, the Eagles they didn't deserve to win because they kind of choked towards the end." Look, I think the Eagles could have played better down the stretch, and you got to give credit where it's due. The Kansas City Chiefs played a good game down the stretch, and my issues with the NFL have nothing to do with the Chiefs. So congratulations to the Chiefs. But let's talk about that big game. Let's talk about the Super Bowl.
Real quick though, I do want to say, I know as a Broncos fan, it takes a lot to say that because I've been there with the Packers. So props to you for saying that. But yeah, let's get into it. And real quick, we got Jinja in the chat. Jinja, as always, cheers, man. Thank you for being here.
Definitely. And I'd say from a person watching this game, and there was even a part, I think it was halfway down the third quarter, where I looked at you and I said, it's really weird that the game is this close. And it feels like one of those games where if the Chiefs do win, we're going to be like, how did they even pull that off in the end? And that's exactly what happened. And part of that, I'll say, was just a couple big plays. I think of that punt return, especially that set up the Chiefs. But then Jalen Hurts, man, has that dog in him. He takes his team on a 80-yard, 85, 75-yard drive. I don't remember if it was a touchback, but the whole field from where they started, and he goes for two, and he does exactly what he needs to do. I look at the 35 points that the Eagles scored. I look at the four or five total touchdowns Jalen Hurts was involved in, either passing or throwing, plus the 2-point conversion. By no means did Jalen Hurts shrink in this game, but the Chiefs are the team that come out of the other end. And I got to think it's the Eagles that deserves most of the blame. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. And you said something that I have written down on my notes as well, is how good Jalen Hurts played this game. But yes, I agree, man. Like at the end of the day, the Eagles defense, which was a vaunted defense coming into this game and throughout the entire season, right? Let's give them their credit because they deserve it. They came into this game and literally just shit the bed, man. And it sucks because this defense was so good throughout the season. And again, the Chiefs O-line, you got to give credit to them as well, but it was just not a good showing by them. Just some stats. I mean, this was the second time this season in the entire 2022 season, including the playoffs, that they were held for 0 sacks. They only had 1 tackle for loss the entire game. Fletcher Cox, Reddick, Sweat, Davis, and Sue had a combined 3 tackles. Javon Hargrave had 5 tackles alone. They were able to get 5 QB hits, but it seemed like it didn't matter because that defense let up a lot of points. And really, again, everything that game, when you look at that game in its entirety, it's because the defense let up a lot of points, especially when Mahomes seemed to be injured in that second half. Although they give him that special juice at halftime, so
Yeah.
it definitely helped. But they just the entire time they could not get pressure on him, and that's really at the end of the day what cost them this game.
Yeah, and right when this game started, I was a big component, right? I my score was 34-37. So I said,
Mhm.
I'm taking the over, so much so that we Googled the highest scoring Super Bowl
Yeah.
right when kickoff happened, because I was like, I think it's going to be up there.
Oh yeah.
And I got something right here. It says fans expected offensive display. That's exactly what they got. The Chiefs and the Eagles, the two teams that scored the most points during the regular season, combined to score the third most points in a Super Bowl in
Wow.
NFL history at 73, only trailing the 49ers win over the Chargers. We talked about that one.
Mhm.
And the Eagles' victory over the Patriots
Oh, in 2017.
in 2017.
Nice.
But that was a game that went overtime.
Mhm.
So I mean, we definitely got a high scoring game. I'm seeing a lot of the news lines coming off. Patrick Mahomes did it with one leg and stuff like that. Like
Mhm.
you said it earlier, you were like, "I'm going to give you credit for being a Broncos fan and saying that." Well, now I'm going to take some of it back. I'm gonna say this. I thought Mahomes was fine. I thought he looked
Yeah.
good, and then
Yeah.
like he goes on that run and then
Mhm.
he gets up limping, and I just felt like a little bit of that. I almost think it's subconscious. It's like in your mind, I would do it too, man. Like you break free, the world's
Mhm.
watching you, you're sprinting down. How cool is it if you get up and you're limping? Like when we think about Michael Jordan, we think of the flu game. When we think
Yeah.
about Kobe Bryant with the torn what was it,
ACL.
ACL shooting the
Yeah.
free throw. Like
Yeah.
those are the moments that we birth greatness and we put
Mhm.
them on a Mount Rushmore is
Yep.
when they play through injury. So of course Patrick Mahomes was hurt after he was sprinting 17 miles
Mhm.
an hour, probably somewhere around there. I mean, to me, it just felt like, okay, man, like you're probably not as hurt as you're letting us on to believe. But at the
Mhm.
end of the day, Mahomes did go out there and he did play a really good game. And I'm sure his ankle was not 100%, but clearly it was well enough to have a really good game. And
Mhm.
you know how I am with my conspiracies. I think maybe his ankle was not almost one of those things that they wanted people to believe was really bad, so he could go out there and shock people. Like
Yeah.
the Eagles defense, hey, he's not going to be able to scramble, so let's focus on maybe our secondary more than our edge rushers.
Mhm.
Edging. So let's do that. And then Mahomes comes
Mm.
out there
Mhm.
and he's got no limitations. It's like, wait a minute. That's not what we prepared for. We
Yeah.
prepared for a quarterback with some serious limitations, especially his mobility, and we didn't get that. So I thought that the Chiefs offense looked really good. I thought that Pacheco was able to run the ball. I did think the Eagles did enough to stop Pacheco to win the game,
Mhm.
but Travis Kelce, wide open. How many times? I mean, the
Mhm.
linebacker trying to. We saw linebackers literally get their ankles broken by Travis Kelce. And Travis
Yeah.
Kelsey's a good route runner, but come on, man, you can't get your ankles broken in the Super Bowl by Travis Kelsey. It's not Tyreek
Yeah.
Hill. And
Yeah.
then also those two touchdowns at the end of the game, busted coverage. I mean, just Mahomes wide open because they were focused on Kelsey, and
Yep.
Kelsey comes up to the line, and then this dude just runs a simple flat route, and he's wide open, and then you're like, okay. Then the punt return, and then the next play is like the same play on the left side of the field. You're like, what is going on, dude? Why is
Mhm.
nobody able to? So, and you said, look, good job on Mahomes seeing the open guy,
Yep.
but there was a part of me where I was like, you know what, this is just too easy. Like it should not be that damn easy to find an open receiver in the Super Bowl, and it was for the Chiefs. And I just feel like the Eagles defense has got to be kicking themselves. And let
Yeah.
me skip that. Nerf gun Ed. I'm a child.
No, and that's the thing. The Eagles in especially in the second half made it look very easy for the Chiefs. Who was it? It was Kadarius Toney that was wide open for that touchdown. and then it was Sky Moore that was wide open for that touchdown on the left side. They were wide open on each side. Those touchdowns went on the right side and the left side. So that's how much, and Jinja mentions it here, that Kelce kind of commanded the type of coverage that he commanded. He said Kelce's having a good game, drawing double teams to get teammates open was immaculate. He's so damn good. And you see that a lot. You see that a lot. Like, for example, the one thing that comes to mind for me is a Super Bowl that I didn't even get to see, and it's the Bears only Super Bowl. Walter Payton was the biggest distraction. He got so much attention in that game that literally every other offensive player was able to score in that game. So Kelce made that impact in the game so much so that Kadarius Toney was able to score. Sky Moore. We had I forget who else was able to score, but all these players were able to score because Kelce just commanded that type of attention from the Eagles defense. Sorry, but again, man, like I know you say it was too easy for the Chiefs, but who made it easy? That was the Eagles defense. Which I mean, Andy Reid, and that's one thing you definitely don't want to count Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and the Chiefs out. But at the end of the day, like, the defense was supposed to play as well as they've played all year, and they just weren't present this game, man. I mean, their leading tackler was a fucking cornerback, for God's sakes, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
that's kind of where the Eagles fumbled the bag for sure.
And I just want to hit some of Jalen Hurts' success he had here. Hurts actually led his team in rushing on a night where one of the league's best rushing offenses struggled. The rest of the team combined only 45 yards on the ground with 17 carries. And when you look at what Hurts did, he definitely did everything that he could do to win. And this is a stat here. This isn't to take anything away from his arm, by the way. He completed 27 of 38 passes for 304 yards and a touchdown. And he joined Kaepernick, who I was actually comparing him to earlier, but in a way where I was saying that Hurts is better than Kaepernick. And Joe Montana is the only quarterbacks in Super Bowl history to have at least 50 rushing yards and 300 passing yards in a game. Hurts did all he could do to bring the Lombardi Trophy to Philadelphia. And at the end of the day, it was not Jalen Hurts. Honestly, after a season like this and a game like that, I mean, if you would have started this season and said you got one drive and you can have any quarterback you want, Jalen Hurts wasn't in that group. And to me, after what I saw yesterday, like, he is now. Like, I mean, he's up there with Mahomes and Josh Allen. And what to the flag, okay? What really bothered me about the flag is that it kind of, we were about to get a historical ending. It felt that way because it was like, okay, it's a tie ball game. The Chiefs score, and now Jalen Hurts has a chance to kind of do this head-to-head thing. Almost felt like the AFC divisional round with the Bills and Chiefs because it was so high scoring, going back and forth, and Hurts was not shrinking under the pressure. And then it ended right there with the chip shot field goal on that penalty. But do you mind talking about the penalty a little bit? Just a little bit.
Let's go about.
So my only
it was the biggest moment of the game. I think absolutely we should. Yeah.
So I think one of the things that bothered me the most is that the way that defense was being played wasn't being called all day. Okay. So I think if you would have thrown that flag earlier in the game, because a lot of people said he even admitted he was holding. It's to me, I'll get there. I think if you throw that flag in the middle of the game, he doesn't play that way in this moment. I think it's like, okay, this is because as a defensive back, you're constantly seeing, what am I getting away with? Where's the line? Because as we know, and this is one of our big critiques of the NFL, is every officiating crew has a different line. So as a defensive back, your job is to know, how physical are they going to let me play? Okay, this is where I can be. This is where I'm going to be. And he found out where that line was. And at the very end of the game, the refs came up, grabbed the stick, and drew a brand new line. And it was the end of the game. And it was like, come on, man, you can't draw a new line at this point in the game. And when I thought about it even more, I think about this, right? Was it holding? Sure, it was holding. But should you get pulled over for going 51 into 50? I mean, you're speeding, but
Yeah.
do you deserve to be pulled over? I mean, that's
Mhm.
the question. Like the NFL can break it down and put it in, and even on the live camera on TV, Greg Olson was like, I don't know, man. With this much at stake and with this on the line, that's one I wish I wouldn't have seen thrown. And I really commend him for doing that because as a person
Mhm.
that was new into broadcasting and I mean, congratulations by the way, Greg Olson,
Yeah, congrats, Greg Olson,
officiating a Super Bowl.
former
But
Bear.
for a guy that is new at this to have the cojones to
Mhm.
literally be like, you know what, that was a bullshit call on TV. And
Yep.
I just thought, man, how many times do we see this? And all the crew does is kind of back up the officiating. It was
Mhm.
nice to see somebody that was human say something that was human, which is what we were all thinking in that moment.
Yeah.
Probably unless you're a Chiefs fan or Mahomes, who was pointing,
Oh, yeah.
like, "Oh, yeah." And that was another thing where I was like, bro, like that's not one to point and freak out. Like there are calls where you should stomp your feet, but that wasn't it.
Mhm.
And I just thought, yeah, that I felt like that's the perfect analogy is like technically you are speeding, but I mean, it's like when you move into a new area, like if you go to Miami and you're on the highway, brother, you can go 90 miles an hour every time you go to work, and the cops do not have time to pull you over. They are dealing with bigger fish in the ocean than
Yeah.
you're feeding. It may
Yeah.
happen once in 7 years, right?
Uh,
You try that shit here where we live now, dude, they're gonna bust you every single time. So like
mhm.
that's the officiating. Like you have to always kind of adapt to the officiating and the whole game it was like he was going maybe 51 into 50 and the cops weren't pulling it over, and then at the very end of the game with the game on the line they give him a speeding ticket, and it's like really like
Mhm.
that's how we're gonna end the game. I mean, it
Mhm.
wasn't even like, yeah, that was a big one. Hertz only had 40 seconds when he got the ball. It was like that was the end of the game.
Mhm.
And it was to me just one of those things where I was really mad when it happened. I was mad after it happened. I woke up this morning and I'm still very upset about it, to be
Yeah.
honest, because it was such an epic game. It really
Yeah.
was. It was
Yeah.
such an incredible game. I mean, it was the best Super Bowl I might have ever seen. I mean, I'm gonna put my Broncos as the best because they won,
Yeah.
but that was a defensive game, and it wasn't that much like it wasn't like crazy fun. It was cool because
Yeah.
it's my team, but that was like a really fun Super Bowl,
Mhm.
and you had two guys that were just going back and forth, and it felt like an absolute just gem to just be watching it. And then all of a sudden it just takes a turn to just straight garbage town. And for that, I'm really pissed off. And I think that they really do need to start letting the cameras be more a part of officiating, because obviously humans are just very flawed. And I don't know, like maybe make like a green flag that you throw out. They said they had over 400 cameras
Mhm.
on the field. That's so many different angles. And it's just like, how do you have the means to be so perfect and be so flawed in these moments?
So yeah, to that point, right? And real quick, this game, 38-35. This is what that Patriots Rams game was supposed to be. That ended up being 12-6 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So just real quick note on that. So you're right. Like under 2 minutes, like the refs have the say, whatever that rule is. I don't really remember what it is, but under 2 minutes, you can't challenge something like that. So Sirianni had the challenges in his pocket, but couldn't do anything. Um, what I will say is at that time, real time, we were watching it. Even I was like, how are you going to throw a fucking flag? Like you said, 51 and a 50, you're going to throw it there. You're going to get a ticket. Like, come on, right? After the fact, a full 24 hours, and this was maybe just a couple hours afterwards, Bradbury, the cornerback who got the holding call, did say, hey, look, that was a hold. And while it was a hold, it wasn't as obvious as some holds have been that we've been like, oh, come on, that's obviously this, that's obviously that, right? But at the end of the day, it was a hold. So the ref didn't necessarily get it wrong. and that was one of the shorts that I put up on YouTube, Instagram, all this stuff, right? TikTok. If you want to go check it out. And then, Kyle broke it down, actually put the play up too. Again, big ups to Greg Olson for having that human moment and being like, I don't know about that, Jim, right? Like that type of moment. But at the end of the day, the ref didn't get it wrong because Bradbury came out, admitted, hey, look, it was a hold. I wanted to see if I could get away with it. Obviously, you don't. And, to that point, what did we say earlier, right? Like the Chiefs defense on a 3rd and 1 at like the 2-yard line, they didn't get away with a what was it? A offsides, right? The helmet was over the ball. The ref called it. Bam, new set of downs for Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. They go on a score. Would the Eagles have scored on that? Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Now to this point, right? Like, would the Chiefs have gotten a field goal? Yeah, probably. They would have gone up 38-35, regardless of the flag or not. They got a new fresh set of downs. The timeout didn't matter anymore for the Eagles. So now it's like, let me kneel it. Let's get it over with, right? But who knows what would have happened?
Yeah, I just want to say, imagine they do kick that field goal with 1:44 left, and Hurts drives down and scores.
Yeah.
And the game's over. They don't even have to kick an extra point because they scored their touchdown with no time left.
Yeah.
And our final score would be 41-38.
Yeah.
And like how epic that could have been, man.
And here's the thing I will say to all that, right? Because we always, a lot of what, this is what I do all the time with like the Bears. Man, this could have happened. Man, that could have happened.
Yeah.
But what did we learn from the conference championships was it really wasn't necessarily that call by the ref that ended it. It was the accumulation of everything that happened in the game prior. Like I said, the entire second half, the Chiefs scored on every single offensive possession they had in the second half. Touchdown, 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 field goal there at the end, right? Where was the defense in all this? Gone. And that's what it is. When you talk about penalties, Lane Johnson, which is a guy that you mentioned a couple times during our live stream, was like, they're not calling his false starts.
He might just be perfect.
And that's what it might be. It might just be perfect. And that's kind of what you have to go on when it gets to moments like this. The ref was not wrong because Bradbury, the cornerback, said, I held. The Lane Johnson didn't get called on those false starts because, like you said, hey, he might be timing that shit like that, like on the snap of a finger.
What if he's the best in the league?
And he very well might be because he does not get those calls, right? So you got to kind of look at it in its entirety, I think, and be like, they lost the game because there was a 0 defense game in this Super Bowl, which, by the way, is exactly what the NFL wants and is moving towards. Like, they want high scoring games. They want touchdowns. They want shit coming down to the line like that. So, big ups for the NFL because that's exactly what they got. And that's exactly what the fans got in this Super Bowl. Again, I know this penalty was huge. And it gave them, again, the fresh set of downs. They were able to kneel it. They were able to kick it with 10 seconds left. But at the end of the day, the Chiefs won because they were able to come out, make those second half adjustments, and score on every single offensive possession. The flag was huge, but also what the Chiefs did in the second half was huger.
I think also that when people say like, oh, but the Eagles gave up those 4 touchdowns. So like, I just think that's such like a terrible way to look at it because almost anybody that wins a football game, you can look back on and see things that you're like, oh, we didn't deserve to win this game. But that's the thing that Jalen Hurts does. He allows a team, it's a team game, right? Just like Mahomes had to overcome the adversity that the Chiefs playing lousy defense put them in a situation where they had to score 38 points to win this game. Jalen Hurts I don't feel like he was afforded the same opportunity can one guy overcome the adversity of his defense falling apart in the second half. And that is the opportunity that was not granted. That bothers me. The other thing, was the ball catchable? That's question 1A. Was it even a catchable ball? Because if it's not catchable, what the fuck is the flag for? And then 1B is if it is a holding penalty, why is the flag thrown after the pass was incomplete? Like, why is that a penalty? Like, if I'm a ref and this is my flag and I'm down here watching a play, okay, there's the holding. Right? That
Yeah.
flag should have been thrown before that receiver even got upfield because it
Mhm.
happened when he was trying to break away to go upfield. So why is that flag thrown a full second after it's incomplete? Why
Mhm.
is that not thrown in the area of holding? You wouldn't throw a false start penalty, 10 seconds after the play. You wouldn't hit a pass interference penalty, you know, and when everyone's getting ready to huddle up for their next play. Why are you
Mhm.
allowed to throw a holding penalty? Like, that is so sketchy. You know what I mean? The fact,
Yeah.
and I saw Ginger mentioned it too, but
Yeah.
it is a very sus thing. Like,
Mhm.
it was like, okay, so depending on the results of this play, I'm going to throw the flag. That's all that tells me. That is like very, very sketch. Like, why do the results of the play matter? If it's a penalty, it's a penalty, and it's a penalty in that moment. It's not it's not a penalty, after the results of the play are up for granted. And the play that, like I said, it wasn't a catchable ball in my opinion. He
Mhm.
was not fast enough. The fraction of speed that he may have impeded, right? Because you said he did say it was a penalty, 51 and a 50. It was such a small diversion. You're telling me that he would have gotten an extra 10 yards from that? Like, how? How could he have gotten an extra 10 yards downfield? That ball was overthrown by at least 10 yards. And the amount that he had his route impeded was such, maybe 2 yards. Maybe, like, tops.
I
So
it's
it's just,
it's it's tough to calculate that though, man.
but
Like
it's not
you
10. It's not 10. It's
uh,
not
eh,
like,
but it's enough on that it depends on what type of start you get as a wide receiver, right? Like we talked about let's say for example, we talk about tight ends and like I think we were talking about George Kittle during that conference championship, right? Like he's able to get a chip on a defensive end enough to make a play to make a play in order for that guy to, or I'm sorry, he's able to get the chip on a defensive end in order to extend that play enough for the quarterback to get the pass off. Like little things like that matter. And I think when you're holding a wide receiver who is trying to get to a certain spot and you're holding them back for maybe half a second, that half a second does matter in order for them to be in that area because now you give it somewhat of a catchable status. Because no matter what, I think it could have been catchable 10 yards. Again, we don't really know. We can't necessarily calculate this. Maybe fucking NFL next gen stats can and see what we can come up with. But what I think about the flag being thrown a little too late is I have no explanation for it. Maybe they were just late on it. Maybe they saw it. Maybe they were discussing it and then he threw it. It's like, hey, look, maybe one ref saw it and was like, yo, that's a hold. The guy who threw the flag, who was supposed to throw the flag, didn't throw the flag. Hey, man, that was a hold on the defense. I don't know exactly what goes on with the refs, but yes, it was weird that it took that long for a holding call to be called because usually holding calls or defensive holding calls are called in the middle of the play happening. But I will say it was weird, but I think at the end of it, that's kind of how the cookie crumbles for the Chiefs and the Eagles. And we've seen it in like almost every single game ever since I've been an NFL fan, I would say. Ever since I've been a football fan, I think I've seen it every single year. A call is so bad that people want to do this. And you see rules changes happening. But I don't know. I don't know if maybe it needs to be reviewed under those 2 minutes a little bit more closely because it has such a huge effect on that
yeah.
game. Is like, hey, maybe we need to review this. We can't let the coaches challenge it. And I think it's a good challenge, but let's review it, ourselves and see what we can come up with.
Yeah, and I think, look, regardless of what side you're on of this argument, one
Mhm.
thing is for sure, like, it's not good for football for a Super Bowl to conclude, and these are the conversations that are happening. Okay.
Find the refs. Find the refs.
I
Find the
mean,
refs.
it's not even necessarily like punish the refs. It's more just like, hey, we need, because now it's 2 games in a row that the game has ended
Yeah.
and people have had to have long conversations about referees. Like the NFL in a perfect world, a game would end and all we would do is kind of bask in the amazingness of what we just witnessed, right? Just sit here, soak it all up, debrief it, right? Like the
Mhm.
fact that we have to have these conversations in the first place is the first red flag. Whether you're on the Chiefs side or the Eagles side, you don't want to kind of cover up how great the game is with something like that at the very end.
Yeah.
So a couple more things about Hurts, just because I really want to give him some props where it's due. He
Yes.
tied Terrell Davis with 3 rushing touchdowns,
Hell
which
yeah.
was the most by a player in the Super Bowl in history.
Mhm.
And this is a quarterback, man.
Yeah.
He also rushed 15 times for 70 yards, with both numbers setting a new Super Bowl record, um, which seemed crazy to me. But I looked at what Hurts did, and 300 yards, tying Terrell Davis with 3 rushing touchdowns, a 2-point
Insane.
conversion, and I wonder what his ceiling is, because I doubt that he has reached it in his 3rd year. And I said after this game, if he beats Mahomes, would you consider him a top 5 quarterback? So let me put it this way: since he didn't win, with the Eagles losing to the Chiefs, is Jalen Hurts a top 5 quarterback?
I think Jalen Hurts is a top 5 quarterback. I think it's Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, Hurts, and I know I'm missing one right now.
Maybe Trevor Lawrence?
Not yet. I don't think
Yeah,
Trevor
he's
Lawrence
like
yet.
8, 9, maybe.
Um,
Maybe he's like top
yeah,
15.
okay. I mean, I'll give
He's
him
getting
maybe
there.
like top 15. Yeah, I definitely
Yeah.
think he's better than half the
Aaron
quarterbacks in the
Rodgers has
NFL.
got to be there still.
Oh God. See, that's the thing. Like, I don't know, man. Like, it's just the top 5 is now we're moving on to the youth, right? Like
Brock
it's
Purdy?
no, not yet. Definitely not yet. No,
Russell
definitely not.
Wilson?
Definitely not yet.
Justin
No.
Herbert?
Oh yeah, there we go. Justin Herbert. I think Justin Herbert is a top 5 quarterback, but sometimes the way he plays, it's kind of like, okay, man, are you actually a top 5 quarterback, or are you just, like acting like one? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts with this performance, though, like you said, 3 rushing touchdowns, has a record in the Super Bowl now. It's 3 rushing touchdowns. He has more rushing touchdowns in a Super Bowl game than what was it, Terrell Davis, right? And he was a running back, for Christ's sakes. Like, that's how you know how good Jalen Hurts is. And he's gonna be a huge problem. That's one thing that I had my notes on. I was like, Jalen Hurts is gonna be a fucking problem in the NFL next year. And everybody should watch out. And what did I say too during our live stream? Which, by the way, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. We were Rick and Kyle from State Farm. But he's going to be a problem. The Eagles, this isn't the last time the Eagles are going to be in the Super Bowl under Sirianni and Jalen Hurts. This is not the last time. They are definitely going to go through a big turnover, I think, this offseason, because they have a lot of people that are going to be free agents, unrestricted, whatever it might be. But as long as you have Jalen Hurts there to command this team, and Sirianni with the way he's coached, I think they'll be fine. They're going to be fine. But yes, Jalen Hurts, top 5 quarterback going into next year. Top 5 quarterback for sure. And I also want to give props to the way, or I'm sorry, Pacheco.
I thought you were going to say Bart Scott ran the ball.
Bart Scott did well, but so actually, let me go back to Jalen Hurts. He had more than double the carries of the next rusher on the Eagles, and he had like 75 more yards than the next guy, like something like that. It was ridiculous. But what I will say for Pacheco too, on the Chiefs side, great game by Isaiah Pacheco. 15 rushes, 76 yards, and 1 touchdown. He averaged 5.1 yards per carry, along of 24. He had that touchdown. And he was shedding tackles, man. He was shedding tackles all day last night. And especially in that second half, he was doing very, very well after that Mahomes injury. This year, he's going to end his rookie year, including the playoffs, with plus 173 rushing yards over expected. He's also going to be a problem next year as a running back. And it's awesome to see these guys kind of just like come up. Hurts, Pacheco, all these guys that their talent is really, really like magnified in the Super Bowl. And it really makes you think like next year, man, the league is going to be in good hands from a running back perspective, from a quarterback perspective, from a team in general perspective, right? Because these two teams are going to meet again, I think, in the future. They've got a lot of championships ahead of them.
Yeah, and you talk about the people coming up. We also have to mention this was the first time that two rookies scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl since the '85 Bears, which I thought would
Really?
be something that you would appreciate. But um, after the game was over and the press conference happened, I thought, man, dude, it's funny how how somebody is with the media can tell you so much about a person.
Yeah.
Just like the way they carry themselves with the media. And then even like Russell Wilson, right? He's such a robot with the media. And
Yeah,
then and that tells you a lot about him, right? You're like, it's hard to get the truth out of this guy.
it is. Yeah.
So for better or for worse, you learn a lot about people. Aaron Rodgers takes a very long time to think about his response before he answers. Oh, he thinks really hard. He's intentional with his words. Like you
Mhm.
learn a lot. Tom Brady, he's a winner. Jalen Hurts had a chance after this game to talk, and he was all class. He said you want to cherish these moments with the people that you've come so far with. He said, your family, loved ones, teammates, peers, everyone that you do it with
Mhm.
and do it for. I will say I'm proud of this team for everything we've been able to overcome. Obviously, we had a big goal in the end that we wanted to accomplish, and we came up short. I
Yeah.
think the beautiful part about it is everyone experiences different pains, different agonies of life, but you decide if you want to learn from it. You decide if you want to use that to be a teachable moment. And I know what I'll do. And and he just is all class, man.
Yeah.
He's all time. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks in the league. I love the way he carries himself off the field, and he's definitely a bright star. And the NFL is lucky to have a guy like him. And you think about everything that he's overcome from the moment he was benched in the national championship to
Mhm.
being in the Super Bowl and breaking rushing records and passing records. And it's you talk about Pacheco and just the NFL is changing before our eyes, and it's going in a really good direction, right?
Mhm.
I don't remember this ref stuff ever being so critiqued. I don't know if it's social media, but growing up, I know people complained about the refs, but it does feel like it's happening at a level that is a little more well, it's hard to tell, man. Honestly, it's hard to tell if it's we are being more critical or the
Yeah.
officiating's getting worse or if social
Mhm.
media is just making it more noticeable, right? Or if it's a combination of all of those things.
Yeah, I what I will say, and this is from someone who put up like a video of basically saying find the refs, right? Because they there was a lot of calls during Bears games during the regular season against the Dolphins, against the Vikings, against I forget who else, where I was like, how are you not going to call that, right? Like there was a lot of times where I was like, that's a blatant holding, that's a blatant pass interference, that's a blatant this. Now, obviously, I have some bias because it happened against the Bears, so I want them to call it for the Bears. But there is a lot of that blatant calls being missed. And you go back to that Saints and what game? God, what which one was it? The Saints and
Vikings?
Saints, was it Saints and Vikings where it was like that obvious pass interference, but they didn't call it? And you're
Yeah.
like, was that the birth of just this blatant missing of calls? You think about it. I mean, probably not, but I mean that's the one that really, really sticks out. Um, Maybe social media does have a lot to do with it because it is able to be replayed and replayed and replayed, and it gets thousands and thousands, millions even of views. So now you become like a person who's like, wow, that was so blatant, this and that, blah blah blah, right? Um, but it's a lot of factors. I think a lot of the blatant calls that they miss, you see in real time. There's also a lot of like borderline that you see in real time that you and I even last night in the stream were like, how do you call that? How do you not call this? How are you calling this? So I don't necessarily I think the social media enhances it, but I think it's pretty obvious if you're watching the game. If you miss a game and you catch it on social media, you're like, wow, how did they miss that? You know what I mean? But if you're
Yeah.
watching it real time, I don't think it's I think the eye test is fine. We can either say it was blatant or they just missed it or they called it correctly. I think that's kind of what it is.
Yeah. Well, moving on from the ref stuff, I think
Yeah.
we beat the crap out of that.
Beat the absolute dog shit out of that.
Definitely necessary though, because these are the conversations that the world's having right now, and for
Yep.
good reason. When you look at the state of both these teams, I think it's realistic to say
Mhm.
that the Eagles, and I honestly, I'll do it probably by next week's episode, and we'll break
Mhm.
down some new schedule stuff for you guys later.
Yep.
I want to talk about the Eagles and their ability to get back to this game, because when I look at the Chiefs, I think, look, do you have Patrick Mahomes next year? Yes or no? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, go
Yep.
down. Is Andy Reid the head coach? Yes. Super Bowl chance, 80% or more.
Yeah.
All right, and that's honestly, like maybe 80's high, but I'd say like 75.
Yeah.
And now the Eagles, now they have a really loaded roster, but I don't know the contracts. That's the stuff I said I'll break down this week.
Mhm.
Figure out,
Mhm.
hey, who are they going to be able to retain? Because the question is always, are you going to be able to retain your Super Bowl roster? Because your value is so high when you go to the Super Bowl. They're
Yeah.
like, dude, we're not paying $100 million for a defensive tackle. Like, you can go to Houston and get that money.
Yeah.
So will the Eagles be able to retain the players? And if they do, I would say the Eagles should be a Super Bowl favorite next year. Honestly, what do you
No,
think
and
about
and
that?
and I don't well, so off the bat, probably, but they are losing a lot of guys. So
They
so
are.
depend they are losing a lot of guys that make this team really well. Bart Scott being one of them, that make this team a very good
Their
team. Bart Scott
corner,
being one of them. Yes, the Bradbury,
Gardner Johnson.
Gardner Johnson.
Yeah, he's gonna be a free agent. He should probably go to the Patriots, I'm thinking.
Yeah, like they're losing a lot of guys. So do I want to give them Super Bowl contenders right off the bat? I would hold off, but I would say probably they're still going to be up there as far as NFC teams. Um, so given all that information, I would wait until the offseason to really kind of say, hey, absolutely, they're probably the NFC contenders again for the second
Jason
year in a row.
Kelsey, Fletcher Cox, Lane
Yeah,
Johnson, and Brandon Graham are all gonna retire.
that's a lot of talent gone. And Ndamukong Suh probably gone too. A lot of guys on the defense, a lot of guys gone, so it's not again, they're probably a top NFC contender for the Super Bowl. I wouldn't put them in the Super Bowl right away.
Man, there's so much good stuff out there with Jason Kelsey's moment with his brother and his mom on the field after the
Yeah,
game.
a lot of good
And
stuff there
that's just like there's some tear jerkers out there.
for sure.
Um, so man, I'm almost embarrassed to say this, but I feel like I was like late on the Jason Kelsey. Like I feel like I just really learned about him when he came out with his podcast, New
Oh
Heights,
yeah.
and
Oh, that's how it goes, man. It goes like that sometimes.
yeah, it's like I just really got into him, and now he's gone.
I
That's
know,
wild.
right? Hey, I think he'll still do his podcast, which would be fun.
I'm trying to see when he was drafted. It feels like he
Oh,
wasn't in the league that long.
he's been in the league a
2011.
while. Yeah, he's been in the league a while.
Yeah.
And Travis Kelsey, you think Travis Kelsey, he's 34 years old. I was like, that's
Damn.
insane. He was probably drafted around the same time as his brother. I was like, that's just insane to think that these guys have been in the league for a long fucking time. But that was wait, do you have anything else on the Super Bowl before we kind of move on to other NFL news?
No, that's pretty much all I got. But congrats to everybody. That was a great Super Bowl.
Yeah, and I also want to give props to the Chiefs offensive line. All 2 weeks they were hearing shit about how they weren't very good. The defense for the Eagles was gonna kill them, and then they stepped up to the task. Kadarius Toney caught a touchdown and then had that great punt return. So props to him. Props to I can't say it enough, but like Jalen Hurts, man, what AJ Brown too and Devontae Smith were able to do for Jalen Hurts' game, like getting open, getting those really tough catches, moving around literally moving around defenders for AJ Brown to catch that touchdown was insane. So I want to just give my props. That's all those guys: Nick Sirianni, Andy Reid, Eric Bieniemy. God, who was the offensive guy for the Eagles other than Sirianni? I know he has a OC, right? I forget who it was.
Yeah, I'll pull it up really quick.
Yeah, I can't remember his name, but I know he has an OC. And to Ginger's question here, how much credit do you guys give Nick Sirianni for the development of Hurts?
Shane
I think it's
Steichen. Steichen.
Okay, so him and Sirianni worked on a game plan, and that game plan really came to fruition in the Super Bowl. So it was very, very good, very effective. This is a good question by Jinja. Do you think how much credit do you give to Sirianni for the development of Hurts? I think it's pretty big.
Um,
But I do think Jalen Hurts has done a lot of work. I think Sirianni has been able to harness that power that Jalen Hurts has of working so hard and being as good as he is, and developing an offense to his strengths, which every coach should do.
Yeah, I mean, he's his coach, so you got to give him a lot of credit because all we know is that under this coach, it's funny because there's quarterbacks like Daniel Jones where I'm like, give Dabble a lot of credit, right? Because we saw all these strides, but when you get into the top 5, right? When you get into the Hurts, Herbert, Allen, Mahomes people, right? Those are the guys where Burrow, those are the guys where I feel like it's kind of a funny line right there where they can succeed under anybody. Like just look at everything that frickin' Justin Herbert has had to deal with, and he's like the first quarterback to have 4,000 passing yards in his first 3 years in NFL history, and the total incompetence with Staley going on, going for it on 4th and 20. I'm going to give credit to the head coach, but I also think I would probably give more credit to coaches like Dabble and Daniel Jones, where you see like, oh, this guy, or like Drew Brees and Sean Payton. But I think there's just certain guys that the coach probably feels really lucky to have. And I think Hurts is one of those guys.
Yeah. And you say Daniel Jones and Dable, there was an obvious lack of maybe understanding of the offense or talent by Daniel Jones, and Dable was able to come in and be like, these are your strengths. Let's play to this. Let's give it to Saquon 15 times, 20 times a game, and let's see you work your magic on runs as well and passing it every once in a while with a weak wide receiving core. So I like you said, it really does depend on the talent, on the quarterback and the head coach, what that dynamic is, and if the head coach is able to harness either the talent of the quarterback or the lack thereof. And then another awesome comment by Jinja. You guys did a great job breaking it down. I believe you guys are the most underrated stream/podcast on the internet. Jinja, thank you so much, dude.
Thank you.
Cheers to that. Appreciate that, man. And we appreciate you coming on here every stream, every game stream. So we definitely appreciate you on
Breaking
here,
news.
Those kind words. Breaking news. Let's go.
Colts to finalize deal with Shane Steichen on Monday. Fresh off the Super Bowl loss, the Eagles, Shane Steichen is flying to Indianapolis on Monday to finalize a deal with the Colts to become their new head coach, ESPN reported.
Let's go.
And even hours after the loss, and his offense putting up 417 total yards in a losing effort. He will replace Frank Reich and Jeff Saturday. The Colts notified the other candidates Sunday morning that they have chosen to go in another direction, and the final candidates were the Los Angeles Rams defensive coordinator Raheem Morris, the Green Bay Packers special team coach Rich Bisaccia, and Jeff Saturday. So they wake up, the Colts see the Super Bowl, they're wildly impressed with the offense. They call Bisaccia, Saturday, and Raheem Morris. They say thanks, but no thanks, and they finalize the deal with God, so many names, which Shane Steichen. So Shane Steichen.
Jinja said it. He said he's going to be exciting that he's going to be the head coach. So good for you, Jinja. Happy for you, dude. You got a great offensive mind.
Oh, you put it
up. Yeah. Got a great offensive mind going to the Colts.
Yeah, man. You got a new head coach. Look at that. We all got a coach. We all have a coach, man. We're all going to the Super Bowl. We're all going to the Super Bowl again.
All three of us are going to the Super Bowl. All right. Love it. All right. So that was our Super Bowl 57 recap. Again, we hope you guys enjoyed. Go ahead. Sorry, one more thing.
I got one more question, only for you though.
Okay. Oh shit.
It's a no shit question. With Matt Nagy winning a Super Bowl, does he get another opportunity to be a head coach?
Yeah,
in the next
unfortunately.
2 to 2 years?
Yeah, he does. He does get another shot. I know for a
Will he
fucking
succeed?
fact. What's that?
Will you want him to succeed?
You know, I that's a very good question. Would I want him to succeed? I don't know if I would care, to be honest. That I think that's the best answer I could give you because after what he did with the Bears, don't get me wrong, he won coach of the year. He led the Bears to 12 wins in his first season as a head coach ever. And we had a really good team. He just really lacked the wherewithal. I don't know what the word is, the wherewithal to say, you know what, Mitch Trubisky, maybe he's not the quarterback for my system. Maybe I need to create a system for either Mitch or maybe we get another guy, we draft somebody else. I have to fit my system around the quarterback. I think he fucked up there. That's what I think he fucked up in. So will he get another opportunity to coach? I think so too. I think he does. But will he succeed? I have a hard time thinking he will succeed, just because I feel like his ego is going to get in the way. Oh, my system works, so why aren't you able to succeed in my system? Because my system's so good. I had Patrick Mahomes. Certain things, I think he's got an ego. Maybe he might not be able. Maybe he might go to a place without a quarterback and be in the same mess, right? So I don't really care if he succeeds or not. I just know that he's going to get an opportunity to coach somewhere else, and probably by the end of next season, he'll get hired somewhere.
Yeah, I agree. Probably one more year. It's always
Yeah.
I love that question because like Josh McDaniel, getting a head coaching job again
Mhm.
and coming to the Raiders would be like if Matt Nagy got hired by the Packers.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a great comment here by Jinja. I truly believe that. That's why I'm here every stream, every podcast, all of that. I came from the Grossi posse, and he is top tier. But the moment I heard Kyle talking about football, I knew. So Kyle's about to fucking cry.
My
Jinja,
dad
why you
didn't
make
do this.
my boy cry?
My dad never did this stuff.
That's why Kyle hates praise, because he's like, what is this going on right now?
Am
Ginger,
I gonna
again,
get
man.
hit?
Ginger, we appreciate the kind words you give us every single day. So we're glad you're here with us every
Thank you,
stream,
Ginger.
every podcast, everything.
Ginger the man. Yeah,
Ginger's the man.
so I asked you the coach question because
Mhm.
we're going to go into some coaching stuff right now. So Sean Payton, by the way, my prediction is
Mhm.
that the Chiefs, right? They just won the Super Bowl. The Broncos
Mhm.
haven't beat them since Obama was in office. And I really think it would be cool. Sean Payton came out and he said, "We don't want the Chiefs to win anything." So he's really bought into the rivalry already. So here's my
Yeah.
prediction. Week 1, the NFL opens up and the Broncos are going to play the Chiefs in the first game of the season. And Sean Payton gets a taste of that rivalry
Off the
immediately, and
bat.
that would be a crazy good game. But let's talk about coaching. The
All
Broncos
right.
don't have a defensive coordinator. So some of the coaching news around the league right now is that Rex Ryan is being interviewed, and
Weird.
Rex Ryan is interested in the job. And Rex Ryan, a lot of people know him for his time with the New York Jets and taking Mark Sanchez to the
Sanchez.
AFC to the AFC Championship game. And most people think about the butt fumble, but honestly, why is that word trash? Mark Sanchez
There we go.
had
There we
so
go.
much, had so much success with dude,
Rex
Matt
Ryan.
Ryan. Are you kidding me? Yes, Rex Ryan. And a
Love
lot
it.
of
Love
that
it.
was just the defense of the Jets, right? That's when they had Darrell Revis,
Yeah. Revis
right?
Island.
Revis Island, and
Mhm.
Rex Ryan had that side of the ball figured out. You can't say he didn't. That was a good defense, but he also has these like really big fake white teeth that just you can't
Yeah.
stop staring at them when he's
Yeah.
talking. And I think he also has a big personality.
Mhm.
I don't know. I feel like he's like known for bad things, but I can't recall any of them. Like, I feel like
Mhm.
he might be like an asshole a little bit. I don't know.
I heard he was an asshole. Yeah, he was definitely an asshole, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, but I also think, if he wants to come out of retirement and you have somebody with that kind of head coaching experience that's like, "Look, I don't care about look, you only come out of the position you have to go back to coaching if you
Mhm.
really are sold that you're gonna get a ring." Like,
Yeah.
and Sean Payton sits down with him and he's like, "Look, I know that it looks bad right now, but
Mhm.
just imagine how good we're gonna look when we fix this, right? We're
Yeah.
gonna look like these people that fixed Russ, and all Russ had was one bad season. And now if they put together a good season, it's gonna be like Sean Payton's a guru. When we had a coach that came out of retirement just to be our periodic 2 week head coach after Nathaniel Hackett got fired, he led us to winning games. We looked really good. And it
Yeah.
was like, maybe Nathaniel Hackett was atrocious. And
Yeah.
maybe that's what happened. And Sean Payton wouldn't have taken the job if he didn't believe it. And they asked him multiple times, "You like Russ?" And he's like, "I do. I think we can win a lot of games with him. I think we can win a Super Bowl with him." He sits down with Rex Ryan and convinces him, "We're gonna get a ring if
Mhm.
you know want to be a part of this journey." And Rex Ryan says, "I don't need to be the head coach. I'll be the defensive coordinator." Is that good for the Broncos, or is that too much ego in one space?
Um, no, man, that's a very good question because Sean Payne does have his ego as well. And Russ Wilson, obviously, we know what type of ego he has, what type of like belief in himself he has, which, by the way, there's nothing wrong with the amount of belief Russ Wilson has in himself as a person, as a player. Like, I actually look up to something like that and having that confidence. It's just the way that he goes about it. And you mentioned it earlier when he's talking with the media. It's like, are you a fucking robot or something? Where's the off button on you? Right.
Yeah.
So I respect the confidence and the belief in himself. But Sean Payton, again, when asked about Russ's personal trainer, like his own group of guys, he's like, I don't know anything about that. I've never tolerated that. That's probably not going to happen around here. It's almost like, all right, dude, you immediately stirred the pot, and who knows how that affects Russ. But again, where is the balance there? So what I will say is both of these guys have an ego, but I think Russ needed that. It needs a guy like Sean Payton to come in and check his fucking ego and be like, dude, look, and maybe they have a conversation where they're like, hey, look, we both have a Super Bowl. We both did it a while ago. Let's come together as a quarterback coach duo and let's put all our shit out on the table. Let's put all our cards out on the table. Let's talk about what may work, what may not work, and let's try to get the fucking Denver Broncos back on top of the AFC to win the Super Bowl. Can they do that? I think so, because if Sean Payton's going to do it, if Sean Payton's going to do it for a championship, I think he needs to do that. And if Russ Wilson wants to get back to the Super Bowl, I think he's got to do that as well. I think those things are necessary things to happen in an organization. When I was talking about Nagy, he would not let go of his fucking ego, right? If Sean Payton is coming back from literal retirement to coach 53 guys, there's got to be a bit of him that is like, I'm not just doing this for the money. I really want to do this to win.
Yeah.
And this is what I have to do, but I also have to talk to my star quarterback, my $240 million quarterback, and be like, dude, let's just fucking hash it all out right now, this week, preseason, whatever, and let's get us to the absolute top. Let's beat the Chiefs. Let's take the AFC West. Let's be champions again. So I think that's what needs to happen. But yes, both of them have egos. They need to check their egos, though, with each other.
Well, there's also Sean Payton said in his introductory press conference, he said there's this idea that like I have to do things my way and it's my way or the highway. And he put it he's like, look, even that tweet that came out that was like Sean Payton reportedly likes the job, but he's
Mm-hmm.
worried about a power struggle with the ownership group. And then he
Mm-hmm.
came out and said that is absolutely false. Like I never had a problem with he's like, there's this idea that I need all this power. That's a Jim Harbaugh thing, right? He's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I don't have any issues, letting the GM be a GM and the owner be an owner.
Mm-hmm.
And Rex Ryan, a lot of people know his brother Rob Ryan, who served
Yeah.
as the defensive coordinator for the Saints
Yep.
with Sean Payton. So this
Yep.
makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this interview happened on Sunday morning. So while the world's getting ready to grab their popcorn and watch the Super Bowl. Sean Payton's like, the fucking Chiefs are in the Super Bowl. We got to get our team. I love that, man. I love that my head coach, instead of
Mhm.
watching our rival in the Super Bowl with an on-field pass that he, could get,
Mhm.
he's like, I'm interviewing our defensive coordinator because what's more important than this game is
Mhm.
us getting to this game, right? It's
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
strong just signal coming,
Mhm.
from a guy that you just love if you're in Denver. So overall coaching, okay, so the Colts got their guy, okay?
Yep.
The Broncos got their guy, Sean Payton.
Mhm.
The D'Amico
D'Amico
Ryans
Ryans in Houston.
in Houston. The Carolina Panthers ended up hiring Matt Rule.
Mhm. No, no,
Um,
no. The Carolina Panthers didn't hire
or
Matt Rule. They hired Frank
the
Reich.
Frank Reich. Yeah, they
Yep.
fired Matt Rule. That's what I meant to
Yeah,
say.
they fired. I was like, wait, they did? What the fuck?
Hired him again. Hey, let's run it back. Come here,
Run
buddy.
it back. Let's go, dude.
You
Let's
know I was
go.
kidding, right?
Um,
I had to.
the Commanders are interviewing Eric Bieniemy, and they're also going to interview Greg Roman, who is the former Ravens offensive coordinator, which maybe not might be the best move for someone who needs to get their offense going. But hey, there's an interview there for the Washington Commanders after they I guess are getting rid of their what's his name? Jesus Christ. Ron Rivera. I guess they're
yeah.
going to get rid of Ron Rivera.
Well, nobody's gonna take that job. No coach. The only
Yeah,
coach
it's a
that's
tough
gonna
one.
Yeah, the only coach that would take this job is a coordinator that's really out kicking his coverage, because
Mhm.
he's like, wow, really? They'd hire me? Because when I not to bring it about Sean Payne again, but he said the triangle is the most important: ownership, front office,
Yeah.
general manager, quarterback. And that's what any real coach, like, you're not going to bring a Sean Payton in to a team like the Washington Commanders that
Mhm.
are potentially selling their football team right now. Dan Snyder has put his home on the market. He hired
Yeah.
Bank of America to explore potential transactions for the team. And then, yeah, February 6th, he listed his home in
Mhm.
Maryland for what would be a record-breaking sale, which isn't a surprise.
No.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, the most popular name this whole time has been Jeff Bezos, and I think,
Whoa.
yeah, so I do
Wow.
think Jeff Bezos will buy the Commanders. I'm
Mhm.
almost 99% sure on that, because
Yeah.
his name has been around for a while. He's just waiting for
Mhm.
the time. So I do think, man, that would have been cool if he bought the Broncos instead of the Waltons. Jeff Bezos and Amazon instead of Walmart Field. It could have been Amazon Prime, and then we could watch Amazon Prime Time.
Oh, dude,
Oh
the
man,
every Denver Broncos game would be on Amazon, and it would
yeah.
be fucking great. Yeah.
Anyway, Walmart. So,
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, dude, I think until Jeff Bezos is the owner of the Commanders, they're gonna get not a serious candidate. They're not gonna bring in
Yeah.
a real guy. No real guy is gonna go into that dysfunction. Because here's the deal: you get hired as the Commanders, and then an owner buys the team, and then the owner, first thing he does is go, "I want to hire my own coach." You're fired,
Yeah.
and it's like, look, now you just did all this. You relocated your family, all these
Mhm.
moving pieces for a 1 year thing. Until the ownership group in Washington's a little more stable,
Mhm.
the Commanders are kind of shit out of luck, I think.
And they have a 16th pick in the draft.
Yeah.
Do you Carson Wentz is not the guy. He's not going to be the guy. He wasn't the guy in Philly. He wasn't the guy in Indianapolis. Sorry, Ginger. He's not the guy in Washington. Heineke, a very emotional guy. He comes in, he wins games, right? Like we were like,
Loves
this
being a
guy's,
backup.
yeah.
Did you hear his
He's
quote?
no.
He was like, I want to start, don't get me wrong, but being a backup is the best job in America.
Oh, it must be fucking great. And
That's
the
what we
second,
talked about.
that's the second best job in America. The first best job in America is being a head coach who gets fired and still gets paid those millions of dollars. So I
Yeah.
think that's the first best job. So the Commanders don't necessarily have a great position in the draft to really be enticing to a brand new head coach, to be like, hey, you can pick the next quarterback. You really can't unless you were going to give up some stuff to get higher in that draft, right? Like you'll probably have to give up a lot of picks for someone like I don't know, the Lions, for example, or even the Seahawks to give up a pick that high that they have, right? To even be in the neighborhood of a new quarterback. So, like you said, I don't think it's the most glamorous job out there by any means. But they really need a new ownership group. That I think that franchise as a whole is going to be in the shitter for the next year, at least all of next season into the following season, and then 2 years from now they'll probably be in a better, more stable spot to make it somewhat of a desirable job.
Yeah, and if Jeff Bezos doesn't buy the team, Byron Allen would be. I mean, honestly, I want Byron Allen to win it.
Mhm.
Jeff Bezos can be a hard guy because it's probably going to be bidded on.
Yeah.
Um, and this is the same thing that happened to Byron Allen with Walmart. Is
Mhm.
Byron Allen looking to be the first black owner of a team? He's the CEO
Oh
of
wow.
what is it, Entertainment Studio. But his net worth is
Mhm.
$400 million. So you're gonna have a
Oh
guy like
shit.
that get into a bidding war with Rob Walton, who has 67 billion,
Yeah,
right?
that's not an easy win to have.
No, I mean Rob Walton pretty much said, "Hey, whatever your number is, I'm gonna go higher."
Yeah,
So,
by
so he did,
$1.
by your net worth, probably, you know, which is a
That's so
flex, but
it's
yeah,
ridiculous how he could just do that.
yeah. But that is something to look out for, a guy to cheer for. Byron Allen
Yeah.
hopefully can own the Commanders. I think also with the Commanders being in the DC area, that would be a really good thing for that specific area, because I've been in Maryland, and I
Mhm.
know there's like a split between the Ravens and DC,
Yeah.
and a lot of the Commander fans are actually African American. So it'd be
Mhm.
nice that they would have a black owner representing them.
Yeah,
You know,
that'd be
it would,
fucking huge.
yeah, it would be
I think it'd
big for
just
the
be
NFL.
I was gonna say, I think it'd be great for the NFL to be the first black owner of a franchise in a state and like area where the largest amount of people, right, largest part of the population is African American as well. That'd be fucking huge. Um, some more coaching hires, more coordinator position, but Todd Downing, former Titans offensive coordinator, is being hired by the Jets as their new passing game coordinator. So I think maybe a step up from whoever the fuck they had, whoever the Jets had. But also this also becomes a question now. Will this guy, Todd Downing, will he be making a pass game for Mike White or for what's his face, the Zach Wilson?
Yeah.
I you know what I mean? Like there's
Wilson's
an
done.
yeah, I think Wilson's done too. Like especially after what he did when he was like, "Do you think you failed your defense?" And he was just like, "No, I didn't." You know what I mean? Like that right there. People are gonna look to that and point to that and be like, "That's where he lost the team. That's where he lost his job."
Yeah, and I do think, as far as like you mentioned earlier, you said the Colts. Wait, no, it wasn't the Colts. You said the Commanders. They're picking at
Yeah,
16,
yeah.
and I wouldn't lock that in, because there's going to be a lot of movement. Like I look at the Bears at number one, okay, and I
Hmm.
do predict that the Texans probably move to number one, and
Hmm.
then the Bears move to number two, and then I think the Colts are going to trade with the Bears, and then the Colts will move to number two, and the Bears will move to four
Number
or so.
4, yeah,
Yeah.
number 4.
So I think the Bears are literally just going to get a haul of shit. And
Yeah.
I also think that a lot of it is going to be next year,
Hmm.
because
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
teams in rebuild can't give you that much. It's like two like broken armies are meeting together, and they're like, "Look, we can give you next year, but we're broken too." Like we
And I think so too. I think the Bears are gonna probably go down to number 4, get like a Jalen Carter, but have like 3 first round picks next year, as well as the number 4 pick this year, and maybe
yeah,
some more second, third rounders this year, as well as some more second, third rounders next year.
you're going to get Will
Um,
Anderson 100%.
yeah, I think Will Anderson's the guy. I got to do some more research on him, and now that the Super Bowl's over,
It's
yeah,
time.
it's
Yep.
time. It's time, baby. Like you guys are
Alabama
seeing us
edge.
now. Yeah, you guys are seeing us now. Like it is time to get into full off-season mode.
I'm happy.
Me too. You know, a part of like the end of the season being sad that the Super Bowl and games are over is like looking towards the future. Because a lot of teams are like, man, it's almost like a fresh start, right? It's like then it's like January 1st for a lot of people, like, oh, fresh start. I can start over. Like depending on the draft, depending on capital, depending on what players you have, what you can sign. It's an exciting time. And as a Bears fan, I don't know if you could tell.
I can't.
But they were a Packers fan.
What are you pointing at?
It's gonna be a very, very exciting offseason.
Yeah, dude. I love that. This is okay. From now on, this is gonna be our only football New Year. We're gonna celebrate the only football New Year.
Super Bowl. Yeah.
And Jinja will always remember our first only football New Year where you found out who your new head coach was gonna be.
Jinja, you were here to be.
I love that we did that. Also, the last thing I'll say, the Bears, what makes them in such great shape is what the last team to have their quarterback figured out in draft number 1 overall was the Jaguars last year. And they went to the playoffs. Now, you just never, ever, ever get a number 1 overall pick and the quarterback position is just figured out. That's almost never happens where it's like, because usually if you're number 1, you were so bad that you're trying to fix the most important position. But in your case, you guys are like all in on Justin Fields as you should be. And you have the ability to just literally just collect all these picks.
Yeah.
And the Bears are about, I would say they're 2 years away from being the Bears.
Dude, I fucking hope so. I really do hope so.
Then the ownership situation, and I'm not celebrating this, but I do think was she 99 years old?
Yeah, she's like, no, I think she's like 100, 101, something like that. Yeah.
She's up there. So there might be some changes there as well, which I think is sad as it is, just like the Super Bowl ending, it is a breath of fresh newness coming from the Bears. New quarterback, new head coach, new owners. It's like how Denver feels right now. We're talking about changing our uniforms, man.
Oh, yeah. I like that.
We're talking about doing like the retro Denver logo, the older one.
With the entire horse.
With the D and the horse.
And the horse, the entire Bronco,
Yeah, with like our same new orange, but then like a blue that looks like this color blue instead of like navy blue.
Oh, okay.
It actually looks
like a powder blue almost, right?
Yeah, like a powder blue.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's nice. I'll let you fix your mic. It's a good time, like you said. It's the NFL New Year, and this is the first one. And it's just, again, you and I luckily started it. It's funny. I said it earlier. You and I started this podcast with the Broncos and the Bears being pretty trash, and now we have so much to look forward to this offseason, and it's looking up, dude. It's looking up.
Yeah, well, we're on the up and up, that's for sure. And we're building all these holidays, Groundhog Day, only football, New Year's Day. We got our 1-year anniversary coming up.
Yes, yeah, we do. It's going to be an exciting year of only football coming up, and we're glad all you guys, especially Jinjo right now, being a part of it. I will end this, unfortunately, this segment with some sad-ish news. It's sad because someone did pass away, a former great. We had former Cardinals guard Conrad Dobler, died at the age of 72. This guy was infamously regarded as the league's dirtiest player. And you know what? He said, I don't give a shit. I'll do anything I can get away with to protect my quarterback. That's the type of guy you want protecting your quarterback.
Yes.
But he, unfortunately, he did pass away earlier today on Monday. So, thoughts and prayers out to his family. This guy was a Pro Bowl selection 3 years in his 10 NFL seasons. He was with the Cardinals, the Saints, and as well as the Buffalo Bills. So Hall of Famer Conrad Dobler unfortunately passed away earlier today. And that will be the end of this NFL news around the league segment. Kyle, do you have anything else before we move on to our final segment?
Nope.
All right. So let's move on now to something we're actually pretty excited to talk about. And that's going to be our new offseason schedule here on Only Football. So we are going to be moving Nothing crazy. Don't worry. So nobody go ape shit. But our Monday episodes are still going to be Mondays. They're still going to be around 5 p.m. our time, which is Pacific time. So 7 Central, 8 Eastern on Mondays. But Mondays are going to be a little different from here on out. Kyle and I are going to try to make it a more engaging type of Monday episode with our live stream. So our Monday episode will be just on live stream, just on YouTube. It will only go up as a live stream, and just a stream. We won't turn it into a podcast the following day. We're gonna do trivia like we did in some live streams for games in the NFC Conference Championships, during the Super Bowl, during the playoffs. So one of our biggest things is we're gonna do a lot of trivia on Mondays. So very engaging for you guys that want to watch us during the off season. Another thing we're going to do, like commentary on games from like, I don't know, the 60s, something like that, just some wild games. And I think, who was it? Was it Steven a while ago that had suggested that for us for that segment?
I think so.
So we're going to take that idea and run with it. We're going to do commentary on games. We're going to post it up here on the screen so you guys are able to watch it. Hopefully we don't get into too much trouble for that. Although if it's on YouTube, I don't think it should be. Fuck them though. And we're also going to think of other things to raise that engagement during our live stream. So we hope you guys are excited for Monday's episodes from here on out after this week. And then starting this week, we're going to also move our Wednesday episode to Thursdays. So Thursdays will be our NFL news, signings, trades, hires. It's going to be like basically our off-season day to talk about everything that's happened throughout the league, kind of like 7 days in between each show to go over everything, and then once it gets closer to the season, we'll go back to Mondays and Wednesdays. But as of right now for the off season, Mondays and Thursdays are going to be our shows. The Thursday episode will turn into a podcast basically pretty much right after we finish the live stream. And also, because Kyle fucking loves football, he's going to give you guys a YouTube and Instagram exclusive. It's going to be called Only Football with Kyle. That is going to be premiering on Tuesdays. It's not going to be a live stream. It's just going to be kind of like an episodic type of series with Kyle. He's going to go over other news. Maybe, Thursdays is going to be our episode with both of us, where we kind of go over a lot of the big stuff that happened. And Tuesdays, Kyle's going to go over just a little bit more. He's going to give you guys a little bit extra content here on Only Football. But it's only going to be on YouTube and Instagram. So make sure you guys tune in and follow us, not only here on YouTube. Don't only subscribe to YouTube, but also follow us on Instagram at Star6 Media to get that content. Kyle, are you as excited as I am?
More.
So yeah, that's going to, moving forward, that's going to be our off-season schedule. Like I said, once we get into like the preseason and the season, the regular season for next year, we're going to go back to Mondays and Wednesdays and, give you guys streams on Thursday night football, Sundays, Monday night football. We're going to continue it. Don't worry about any of the streams. It's going to continue because we fucking love you guys and we love NFL football.
Love it. Love it. Love it.
That's right. All right, Kyle, before we get out of here, what are the chives on top of this Only Football episode?
Have you ever seen, is it Innocent But Guilty documentary series? It's like people that go to life in prison, but they didn't do it.
I don't think I've ever seen it. No, it sounds familiar.
Yeah. It's like a Discovery Channel thing and you're just watching it. And so like, if you've ever been in a run with the law, basically one of the things that will happen is
why'd you say it like that?
Because I don't want to make it sound like I'm the only one that's been in this situation.
I love it.
It's like, hey, yeah, like you could actually be innocent of something, and then your lawyer will tell you, hey, if you plead guilty, your punishment will be less severe. So you end up just pleading guilty just so you don't have to face, the risk of going to life in prison. You only get 12 years if you say you did it. So you got to plead guilty. Well, when I saw Bradbury say it was a holding call, I felt
Mhm.
like I was watching one of those documentaries where I was like, bro, you're fine, man. Like, you don't like watching somebody plead guilty. And
Yeah.
I wanted to share with you what the internet did. Skip Bayless said, definitely not a penalty on Bradbury. Dan Orlowski said, absolute awful penalty, horrible call. My favorite was LeBron James. He goes, sorry, but I don't like that call. Not for the Super Bowl, man. His hand on his back had no effect on his route. This game is too damn good for a call like that to dictate the outcome at the end. Damn. By the way, I have no horse in the race, just my professional opinion from King James. So I just wanted to throw
The
that in
number
there.
one flopper.
The number one
Oh,
flopper. Isn't that some ironic twist? The number one
ironic as
flopper.
fuck. Yeah, I love it. I love it. That's great. Oh, thanks. Thank you for giving me that laugh from King James, which by the way, I mean, you got to give him his props. He's the all-time points leader in the NBA, but in his professional opinion, that was not the right call.
Yeah, it's like all these people complaining about it, and then you get to James Bradbury where he takes accountability, and we're like, no, don't do that. It's just like watching Innocent but Guilty. It's just like watching it where you're like, no, don't give in, don't drink the Kool-Aid.
Oh. All right. Well, Kyle, thank you for those chives to just wrap up this episode. Follow us on Instagram. We are pushing the Instagram. We're trying to get to 100 followers on Instagram at Star6 Media to see you can actually see our show schedule on there as well. And obviously moving forward, we talked about it. Kyle, Only Football with Kyle is going to be exclusively on Instagram as well and YouTube. So go check us out at Star6 Media on Instagram. Subscribe, like, and share all these episodes from Only Football, as well as all of our other shows like EAFP, JCA Sports, 3 Up, 3 Down, Sports Strip Live, and Slot Shot Podcast. You can follow me on Twitter at @andnowrick, and you can follow us on Twitter at _Star6 Media. Kyle, where can they follow you on Twitter?
You can find me at FTBLONLYPODCAST on Twitter, and we're gonna call this podcast a Magnum because we're about to wrap up.
If you didn't like the chives from before, these chives wrap it up. All right, Kyle, always a good time with you. Huge shout out to Ginger being in the chat and just giving us more topics to converse on.
Love
but
you,
Kyle.
Ginge.
Cheers to Ginge. Kyle, I'll see you next time, man.
See ya.
See ya.